everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson. We created this show for you, specifically for you, because we want everybody with an invisible condition to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. You are not alone. That is the most important thing. And today's guest, I'm very excited to introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Lucinda Sykes, and she's had kind of a lifelong interest in sleep, and it was inspired by her own life because her mom and her grandmother both lived with insomnia, and she had to figure out ways to get better sleep too. Isn't that all our goals? Everybody wants to get better sleep, So Lucinda is a retired Canadian doctor and a longtime mindfulness teacher. Before COVID, she had more than 6,000 patients that attended programs about mindfulness or Toronto Clinic, meditation for health. After COVID ended, all in-person teaching at the clinic, like it did for all of us, right? COVID kind of ended a lot of stuff for a lot of people. She redirected her work online, which is awesome. And she developed special programs to help women get all the deep natural sleep that they need after 50. And Lucinda's programs are about effective self-care, helping people find their best path to healthy sleep without sleeping pills, by the way. We'll talk about that. And asking what works best for the individual. So I'm absolutely delighted and honored to introduce Lucinda Sykes. Good morning, Lucinda. Appreciate you being here. Good morning.
Thank you, Jeff. So glad to be here. Thank you for that warm welcome, and hello to the audience too. Yes.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. This is gonna be interesting because everybody sleeps, right?
Yes.
So it affects everybody.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of the quality and amount of sleep, probably. So I have kind of a crazy question to kick this off, and it has nothing to do with anything that we're doing, but that's okay because it's live TV, so I thought I'd throw a curveball at you. What do you do in your life that's still analog? In this digital world, everybody's on their phone, everybody's on their iPad, and they're doing their Zoom calls and all that stuff. What do you still do every day that's analog?
I'm just trying to think. I guess my alarm clock. Is that?
Analog? Is it one of those that's not digital? Is it one of those?
No, it's a. I don't use it for an alarm, but it's there, and I put a battery in it. So
get out of here.
So there you go.
Oh man, a clock with a battery. It's like the round one with the two things on top.
Well, yeah, almost.
You used it as an alarm, one of those obnoxious.
Yeah, I'm old enough to. That's a staple in life. Clocks like this scattered here and there, and yeah.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
It
That's
helps me
awesome.
orient.
I love that. Yeah. I don't think I've met somebody in a long time that's got an alarm clock like that. Everybody just puts their phone by their bed.
No, I like a clock face. I like to see the sweep of the hands, and I think in terms of 12 hours, and yeah.
Well, and you're living dangerously with a battery instead of electricity.
Yes, there's that.
I remember a student in my school one time coming in to sign out to go somewhere, and they looked up on the wall, and our school office has an analog clock on the wall. And he looked at the clock and he goes, "What time is it?" Oh. He was in high school.
Oh,
Lucinda, he was in high school. So I said, "Never mind, man. First thing you need to do, forget your homework. First thing you have to do is go home and remember how to read a clock. That's your homework."
That's interesting.
Because they're always looking at their Fitbits and their Apple Watches and their phones and their, nobody knows how to read a clock anymore.
Because that connects us with antiquity.
Yes.
I think it's from the Babylonians that we get the 60 emphasis on the cycles of 60 and
there's nothing wrong with old school, man. No school like the old school, right? Come on.
Yes.
Well, anyway, thank you for indulging me. I just wanted to throw that out there. So tell us about so you have struggled with sleep because you're
I years ago, I must confess that I sleep well.
well, you do now,
Occasional times, but
yeah.
I do come from a family where the women had sleep troubles. My grandmother and my mother both had real difficulty sleeping, and my grandmother, bless her, was taking sleeping pills every night for as long as I knew her. And I would even go to the drugstore and pick up her pills for her. And that's just a few years ago, I was really in the research and was so taken aback to realize that sleeping pills contribute in many cases to Alzheimer's disease. And my dear grandmother did pass away from Alzheimer's disease in her 60s, which is far too early. That's part of what's given me the enthusiasm to help women find natural path to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think I remember you telling me that it was in her 60s.
That's young.
That's
yes,
ridiculous.
And it wasn't in our family. There were not other people who had early onset Alzheimer's.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, but the research is that it really predisposes you to that condition.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm gonna just to throw this out there to the live audience that's watching, wherever you're watching, if you're on your phone or your TV or your whatever, just throwing this out there. Has anyone else out there, I'm included in this, I'm going to say yes for me. Has anybody else struggled with insomnia or trouble sleeping? Because it feels like a lifelong thing for me. If you have, please comment. However is easiest for you to comment. And you've got the person to talk to right here. So we're live right now. So if you have a question, comment, we'll talk to you. But yeah, I wanted to throw that out there just in case anybody wanted to ask. So your mom and your grandma both struggled with insomnia, but as a young person, what impacted you? Like when
I slept well until I moved to Toronto. I'm from Alberta.
Yeah.
And I moved to Toronto to study medicine.
Okay.
And that was the big city and intense studies, and that's where my insomnia began. And but I believe that I was fortunate that fate was kind to me. Through the university, I entered psychotherapy with a really gifted psychotherapist, and that it helped my sleep. And then I also took up a very simple yoga, very simple body awareness and stretches. And the two of those, the psychotherapy and the yoga, were very effective for me. And then, as well as a medical student, I could familiarize myself with sleep science and learn about the common errors we make undermining our sleep without realizing it. And I was able to, adopt the best lifestyle that sleep science points to, and that also helped me.
I'm sure, yeah, and I think I know the answer to this, but did your mom and your grandma's insomnia and all the struggles with it and yours and everything, how did that influence your decision to become a doctor?
Well, I entered medicine. I planned medicine before insomnia was a personal issue. It was certainly one for my grandmother and mother. So it's an interesting question. My grandmother and mother had not only insomnia, but other health issues. And I came from a family where one of my sisters was disabled. So, I think that does have an effect, doesn't it, to want to help. And
absolutely. Yeah. No, that's part of the reason I wanted to ask, because it really can. I mean, you hear the stories all the time. My dad passed away from this way early, and so I decided to get to the bottom of it. Or
yes,
they or it's I feel like you're either following in somebody's footsteps or you're trying to solve a problem that they couldn't solve.
Absolutely. I was working at a family medicine clinic for some time there, and I was known as the go-to doctor for people who needed help with sleep.
Oh, wow.
And, and that's how I got my interest in psychotherapy and did extra training in psychotherapy. But I was interested in sleep right from the outset. Of course, at that time, with my training, I emphasized sleeping pills because, gosh, that's how one treated sleep conditions. I kind of regret when I look back on the way that I was prescribing Dalmane and related pharmaceuticals, but but people got lots of attention from me, and I very much informed them about what we call sleep hygiene. Very simple strategies that you follow to support your sleep rather than sabotage it. So I think people were benefiting from that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny that you say that, because it's like what you said at first, the sleeping pills, which was kind of commonplace. Nobody thought any different, just like they were rationing cigarettes and for the soldiers in World War II or whatever it was. Before and you were telling me when we were talking before, it was like doctors would smoke in the office.
Yes.
We didn't know.
We didn't know.
Choose not to know. And then, but now, we know more. So
the physician who was prescribing for my grandmother, I'm sure he meant well.
Yeah, but, of course.
And maybe he was smoking as he did it. And, but it wasn't, in the long run, the body just is as it is. And we have to respect the physical laws of the body. And for one thing, we know that sleeping pills are a misnomer. They are sedatives. They sedate the brain, but they do not put it to sleep. Sleep is a very complex sequence of events that happens in the brain. In a way, the brain does not sleep. The mind sleeps, but the brain is very active during sleep.
Yes.
Fact, and the sedative pills interfere with that. So that's part of the problem with them in the long run.
I bet. Well, and it's funny that you separate the two out, because the mind is where all the thinking is happening, right? And the brain is.
Yes.
And so when you're sleeping, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the brain is the only system in the whole body that has to have sleep to clean itself out and do its treatments. Every other system doesn't need that, but the brain needs it.
Yes. For decades, in a way, medicine was mystified how the brain cleaned itself. The lymphatic system, as some of our viewers may know about the lymphatic system, kind of acts as a sewer system through the body, and any detritus, any problems that arise, substances that shouldn't be there, they kind of flood into the lymphatic system, and eventually they get excluded through the liver and the GI tract. Mm-hmm. But the brain does not have a lymphatic system. Mm-mm. But about, I believe it was in 2012, the research began to develop that showed that while we are sleeping, the brain reforms itself subtly but significantly, reforms itself to make channels that are not there while we are conscious. The brain is busy giving us consciousness, but then when we go to sleep, the brain reforms itself, the astroglial cells reform, and then the brain floods itself with cerebrospinal fluid and cleanses itself. We call it the glymphatic system, not the lymphatic system, but the glymphatic system. If anybody in the audience is interested, they could even Google that word, GLY, glymphatic system, and see. Yes, and we want the brain to do this, goodness sakes, because part of what the brain is doing is it's cleansing itself of the substances which seem to contribute to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. So if we interfere with the brain cleansing itself every night, we set ourselves up for trouble later down the road.
100%.
Yes.
And when you were talking about that, a video that somebody sent me that's probably several years old. It's probably around the time that you were just talking about, 2012, 2014, somewhere in there. And he was talking about it was one of those TED Talks. So it was very concise. It was like 12 minutes long. It was amazing.
Yes.
You know, and that's the first I had heard about that. Like, you have to sleep or your brain won't be able to cleanse itself.
Yes.
So
and really, so we get misled because, of course, we are asleep. So we have a kind of sense that the brain somehow shuts itself down and takes a cruise for a while. But it's the reverse. The brain is, in a way, just kind of glad it doesn't need to generate that busy mind. And it can put its attention, so to speak, to cleansing itself and also laying down memories for the next day and fostering our creativity. So the brain's very active, but we just don't know about it. And that may be why our society has tended to underplay the significance of sleep. We've tended to think, well, we're just in la la land. And so medicine, in a way, has focused on all of life except sleep. When I was in training, we didn't get much instruction on sleep science, actually, because it's been neglected by the scientific world. But yes, now they're so enthusiastic, as you're telling us, Jeff. We're so enthusiastic now to learn what's going on in sleep.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because it's gotten to the point, or it did for a while. Maybe, I don't know. The pendulum goes both ways, right? So it maybe it's not so much right this minute, but for a while, I remember like sleep was the goal was to be busy, 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 right? And it's, and if you slept 8 or 10 hours a night, you were considered, took a nap during the day. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
You were considered to be so lazy.
Yes.
Why aren't you doing things? And that's not how it works. That's a good thing.
Yes, some prominent sleep scientists are very concerned about that attitude. Yeah. This sort of the social attitude that rejects the value of sleep and encourages people to sleep for only 6 hours instead of 8, that kind of thing. And there's even some outcry now as we look at how we treat our children. And we insist that they go very early, and, especially our teenagers. Our teenagers really do need to sleep in to get the full benefit of sleep at that age. But we insist that they get up and even go to football practice. And in the long run, we're not doing them a service.
Well, when the district where I think it's where my son is going to school, he's a junior this year, and he in high school, and their district actually said something about we're going to start. They had a proposal out there for a vote about starting the day a little later, so that they could sleep a little longer. And I was like, yes, we're doing it. Let's do it. Everybody should vote yes.
That's wise.
Yeah, I don't know how it came out, but I was so excited they even put that on the table.
We need it because we're dealing with significant illness in our society. I know we're not like maybe it's happening in Africa these days, but we have lots of cancer and diabetes and obesity and dementia and cardiovascular disease too. Yeah. And by gosh, all the conditions that I just named, they are linked to poor sleep. Yeah. So if we as a society are, encouraging poor sleep, we are encouraging illness.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, man. That's 100%. And the more I've looked into this, and just that one little TED Talk YouTube video, I'm telling you, that has got me just reeling, But we're gonna go to a short break here, but we are we're gonna tackle a couple things when we come back about getting a good night's sleep naturally, because like you were talking about with the sleeping pills. So we're gonna come back here in just a minute or two and talk about how to get good natural sleep. So stick with us, everybody. Thank you, Lucinda. Stick with us, everybody, and we will be right back shortly.
This is Madeline Blair, the host of Unlocked, where we open possibilities for when the unexpected happens. Join me Thursdays at noon and again at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Business Network, right here on E360 TV.
All right, welcome back, everybody. During the break, it popped into my head. I wrote it down, and I'm going to find that YouTube video so we can talk about that, because I don't mind throwing it out there by name, because I want people to be able to watch this because it's valuable. But what I kept thinking when you said the brain just can't wait for us to go to sleep so it can actually do its thing. I don't know if you've seen the movie Inside Out. It was like a Disney Pixar kind of thing with the. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's hilarious, and it's about this family, and then the girl. There's this teenage girl, and it's all about what actually goes on in the brain when people are thinking and stuff. And so there's like the anger. There's a little personality for each little aspect. There's like happiness and sadness and anger and doubt, and I don't know. There's some other stuff, and oh man, so I can just picture them like all of them, like, oh, thank God he's asleep. Okay, let's get to work. And they're all like doing stuff, scrubbing the walls and cleaning things.
Yeah.
And I could just,
Absolutely, because sleep helps that to rebalance. It helps the brain and the body more fully to rebalance and organize itself. Yeah.
And it still strikes me every time I think about it that is the only time. It's number one, it's the only system in the body that can't do it while you're awake. So you have to be asleep for it to do its work. So that still just blows my mind, I guess.
And then more broadly, because the brain enters the state of sleep, the sequence of brain states that we call sleep, and this affects our cardiovascular system, for example. Like those members of the audience who suffer from hypertension, from high blood pressure. The time of day when your blood pressure is at its lowest, and some would say its healthiest, is when you are in deep sleep. And that's because the brain has shut off the stress hormones, the sympathetic nervous system and the allied hormones, and the blood pressure drops. And so if you have hypertension, you really do want to support your sleep and get as much as you can.
Yeah, no kidding. And we were talking about, so this segment, we were going to talk about healthy sleep, right? So you alluded to sleeping pills, but we all know that is not the answer.
Yeah, most
right?
people are recognizing that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I would be very happy to touch on some of the really basic ways that we can all support our sleep, because our body knows how to sleep. It wants to sleep. And if we care for our body, sleep will usually be the outcome. Now, that's not true for people with definite insomnia. There's other things going on too, but all of us can benefit from caring for our sleep. In medicine, we call this sleep hygiene. Now, that's a little dry expression, so I don't use it much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on these points. If you're interested, you could download my PDF called Happy Sleep Secrets, and I think that's in the show notes there. You can go there.
In the show notes.
Yeah, a little PDF about these ideas. So first off, for happy sleep, you want to have a regularity to your day and especially to your sleep pattern. So we're learning now, even the heart benefits if we have regularity to our day. We do it for our children, don't we? They have a bedtime, there's a time they go to school, time to do the homework. We give them a regular day, and it turns out that we as adults benefit from regularity. You're very much encouraged to have a bedtime and to then wake up at the more or less the same time, and to do it every day, even on the weekends, because we are descended from generations of people who didn't have weekends. We're descended from all these hunter-gatherer people who got up with the sun and did their thing, and their life inherently had regularity, and our body system is set up for that. And incidentally, I say body, but also psychologically, the research showing that people who have regularity in their lives are less prone to psychological problems and even psychiatric illness. So regularity is important, and you'll see that in Happy Sleep Secrets. And then allied to that is the significance of light. because our regularity is empowered by, well, they call this suprachiasmatic nucleus right in there, folks. Few inches in, there's a small area of the brain that's responding to light and kind of masterminding your body and releasing the melatonin that helps to control your sleep cycle. But it's not only controlling fluctuation over the day in your sleep, but it's also controlling your temperature and the release of hormones and so on. We are inherently regular, and this regularity is masterminded, shall we say. It's controlled by our exposure to light. So our sleep is supported by a regular experience of daylight, folks. Daylight seems to do the job better than, these indoor lights. Even if it's a cloudy day, go out and experience some daylight. Many scientists recommend the morning time, and they would say about 45 minutes. And, just walking out in the sunshine, or even if it's cloudy, or even if it's rainy, have an umbrella, go out and experience the daylight. Do it every day at about the same time. And at night, very much encouraged to dim the lights, because that's what nature does. You dim the lights, and as well, you want to have less of the blue spectrum light. Now, a lot of that is coming from these devices, that the digital world that you were mentioning for us. I had a chap just point out to me how much he found that sitting by a campfire helped him sleep. And then he reflected on it, he realized it had no blue light at all. And maybe that's our ancestors, because by gosh, generations of us were sitting by the fire. And certainly if you think about it, as the sun sets, the blue light disappears. We've still got the yellow and amber end of the spectrum for us. So turn down the lights for that final hour or two of your day. And most certainly, if you can bear with us, you eliminate the handheld devices and so on. Because we know, the research is there, that a light at the blue end of the spectrum interferes with melatonin. That's our main sleep hormone. And one study, fascinating, compared individuals who were using e-readers, these digital books, and then they'd go to sleep, and their brain was monitored during the sleep process. And another group was just reading in an old-fashioned book. And the e-reader folks, these were young folks, they fell asleep, but the quality of their brain waves was affected because they were using an e-reader. Isn't that interesting?
So I have a question about that, because yes, I agree. Reading an actual analog book is better than an e-reader. But so reading it on here on a phone is going to be more blue light. But I know, like with a Kindle, it's I don't think there's any, or maybe there's minimal. I don't know.
Well, I can only talk about
light is not as much, I thought, but maybe not.
Yeah, this was in I really went in depth into the scientific research looking at blue light. So I don't have the paper in front of me, Jeff, so I can't say. They called it an e-reader, as I recall, but the details as to what that was, I don't know.
Sure.
Yes.
I think some of those I think especially the more recent models, I think are realizing that. And so I think, because the Kindle I think my wife has a Kindle from a while back, and it doesn't look like it has any blue light at all, but there might be still. I don't know. I'm no expert. So,
well, if some time in the future, if I had an idle moment, I'll pull up that paper again. My computer is chock-a-block full of scientific papers, and I'll check out the details, because I do remember clearly, however, that individuals who are using the e-readers, they fell asleep, but they didn't realize that the quality of their sleep had been affected.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is just read a book, really.
Yes.
The short answer is just read a book, or even listen to a book. Even you could do that.
Yes, you could listen to a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And dim the lights. Again and again, people tell me, Lucinda, I didn't realize how I just need to turn down the lights before I go to bed. And I start to get sleepy. And you see, that's the design, folks. That's the design. We are creatures. The sun is bright. We're alert, going around. Then the sun begins to set, and we begin to be sleepy. Now, not all of us. I know some of us having insomnia, but you want to go with the program. Go with what nature wants to do for you. Dim the lights, and let nature take you into sleep.
Yeah. Well, and this will be a fun little, especially during the summertime. It's a little harder in the winter, but
yes,
during the summertime my father-in-law got a fire pit thing, and so we were out there roasting marshmallows and stuff. And so maybe that's a good excuse for everybody to go out and figure out a way to sit by the fire every night, and then you're out there.
Oh, this man swore by it. He said, Lucinda, this is how he falls asleep. But I'm sure he can't do it all the time. But maybe in his home, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That is really appealing. I'm not going to lie, because that's when we kind of wind down for the day and don't want to have the stimulation. It's still digital, but we'll there's a fireplace app or whatever. We'll put the fireplace on the TV, and so it's just this crackling fire on the TV. So it's still blue light. Probably it's not the greatest. It's not like a real fire, but it's better than.
But do you see the ancestral energy coming through?
I know, it's so crazy. Everything goes to
and sleep. What could be more ancient than sleep?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's deep in our body. It's the body that goes to sleep, folks. The mind kind of goes along for the ride, but the body entrains sleep. And so it's by bringing your attention into your physicality, your physical self, and then it will sweep you into sleep.
Yeah.
Now let me talk about temperature, because this can be surprising to people. Mm-hmm. When we enter into sleep, our temperature drops. So that's part of that's an element in our physical self that is influenced by this circadian rhythm that I was pointing to earlier, the rhythmicity of life. And so our temperature drops by a whole degree Celsius, by 2 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's the core body temperature. And it does this, and if we interfere with that process, we interfere with our sleep. So the modern sleep scientists encourage you to sleep in a cool environment. And they recommend like 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18.5 degrees Celsius. And they acknowledge this sounds pretty chilly, but it will help you sleep. And if you pay attention, maybe it's a little warm, and notice how you're extending your feet and your hands outside the blankets, because part of you is really trying to cool down. It will be easier to sleep in a cool room. Although, then there's a further recommendation, a kind of handy tip from the sleep scientists. You could put socks on. If you have warm feet, even in a cool room, that will help you sleep.
Yeah, that's, it's funny you say that, because socks are a thing. I don't usually sleep without socks on, and my wife either. Like we just that's the last thing we do. We go to bed and put the socks on. Yeah. But I'm just gonna throw this out there. My wife she's cold a lot, so we've got an electric blanket on our bed almost all year.
Yes.
And so sleeping cold, I think 65 degrees would probably. Well,
the sleep scientist I'm thinking of, who recommends this fully, he would say you just need more blankets. He uses he doesn't use an electric blanket. He uses a hot water bottle, as he confessed. And it's not that you should feel cold, but that you should give yourself a cool environment so that your body can regulate itself.
Okay.
And that's why we encourage you before bed to get a warm bath, because paradoxically, when you take a warm bath, you will begin to more readily release heat. And that really helps you sleep.
Yeah, no, that's true. Okay.
But sure, you can use double blankets, and electric blankets and water bottles, all of that. But the environment is cool. So the body, if it wants to cool down, it can stick a hand out or a leg out, and it kind of cool
Okay.
itself down. It
I
can't do that if the room's too toasty. There's no way it can cool down.
That's true. Okay, I misunderstood, I think. Okay, so you're saying keep the environment cool, but if
Yes.
you need to put more blankets on or whatever
Oh,
for
yes.
you, that's
Yeah.
okay.
No,
Okay,
no,
all
you
right.
don't want to chill yourself. The body will
No.
take care of that. The
Yeah.
body knows how it wants to chill itself, but
Wow.
it can't do so if it's, in the tropics without air conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're living in a 75-degree, house
Yes.
that's warm all the time. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. So what, just out of curiosity, what is in your opinion, in your professional, with all your experience, what are some of the most common misconceptions you get from people about sleep that maybe buck against what you're trying to teach them?
Well, the most common misconception I have to deal with it because I work with women over 50. That's my focus. That's
Yeah.
women I serve. They're over 50, and the big misconception is that, hey, you get older and you can't sleep well. That poor sleep goes with aging.
Yeah.
And they begin to accept poor sleep and they kind of give up. And it's a terrible shame because it's not good for them to be sleeping poorly. And it's just not true because you can sleep well throughout the lifespan. You just have to take care of yourself. So that's a big one that jumps into my mind.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Well,
How about alcohol? There's another.
Oh, there you go.
People tend to think that, hey, I'll just have a drink before bed. It helps me sleep. And that's where, again, I was drawing the distinction between the sleep state and the state of sedation.
Unconscious.
Because alcohol is a sedative. That's what the pharmacologist would say. It will sedate the brain. You kind of lose your capacity to think much. And if you have enough to drink, well, by gosh, you're gone. But you're not sleeping. You are sedated. And the state that you are in is a fragmented state. It's not real natural sleep. And you will not be getting full restorative sleep. So if you're thinking, I'm going to have a drink, you get a little tipsy and go to sleep, oddly, you are not serving yourself because the quality of the sleep that you are experiencing, the state that you are in, is not deep, natural sleep, and you're not going to benefit.
Okay, that makes sense because I had thought that for a while. I was like, hey, I fall asleep a lot easier if
Yes,
after
you
you have
lose
a couple glasses of
consciousness.
wine or something,
Yeah, you're sedated, you lose consciousness.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. But the brain is less able to clean itself.
Yeah.
Because you see, it's calmed down too. The brain gets calmed down and it's not going to do the heavy work of cleaning itself because it's kind of nodding off as well. That's what the alcohol does. That's what sedatives do. They calm the brain down, stops. And it's true that our busy mind is eventually gone.
Yeah.
But the other aspect of sleep, all this action that the brain does for us, we've impaired that. And in the long term, that brings serious consequences. So alcohol is not the way to help yourself sleep. Even getting a little tipsy before bed, you're really asking for poor sleep and in the long run, health problems as a consequence.
Yeah, and I could totally see that now. You sometimes you kind of you either learn from somebody's experience or you learn from your own experience, and so sometimes you just gotta figure it out for yourself because you don't listen. But but I get it.
When we use sedation, whether it's alcohol or a sleeping pill, if we pay close attention the next day, we don't feel as well rested as we do when we had a good night's sleep.
If you're paying attention. Yeah.
Yes. And that's part of my mission in life is to encourage people to pay attention, to care for themselves. As we would care for our beloved child or even our beloved pet, we care for them and then they're able to flourish.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, that just reminds me, one more tip I want to offer the audience if we have time, Jeff, is to just point out the value of activity every day. If you're a couch potato, it's not good for your sleep.
It's true.
And maybe you're confined to a wheelchair. I mean, it's some people's experience at this time.
Yeah.
But there will be a way that you can be with your body and activate your body each day for about half an hour or so.
Mhm.
And online now, there are wonderful yoga teachers that are instructing people with disabilities, and even yoga of breath work. That's also a way to activate the body. We want to activate the body every day. If
Yeah.
you're able to, sure, there's that exercise class you love to do, or you like to walk each day, but something so that you and your body become one. You're
Yeah.
with your body, walking, exercising, or
Yeah.
breathing, stretching. You want to do that every day. That will support your sleep. And again, if you are quadriplegic and you're not doing all of this, you can find people online who will show you what's called pranayama in yoga, where you can learn to breathe in a purposeful way and activate your body, even though the muscles of your arms and legs maybe doesn't do what it might for other people.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, and that's super valuable. And thank you for pointing that last point in there. We're gonna go to our last break here, and then on the other side of the break, we're gonna talk. I actually have a question for you about that, but and then we're gonna talk about the most important part, which is my favorite part of the show, which is hope for all the people for all these people that are having trouble.
Yes.
Where's the hope? So we're going to do that on the other side of the break. We will we'll do that right now, and we'll see you here in just a couple minutes, everybody. All right. We are back. I wanted to do a little shorter break that time because I know we still have a lot to talk about. So, yeah, I am. In fact, this is kind of because I have always struggled with sleep, and you could ask my parents about that. Even when I was in elementary school, and they tried their best, and they tried to do their research and do, and one of the things they gave me was a melatonin supplement, which I know now was probably not the best idea.
Well,
but at the time, you just kind of do what you think you can do, and I don't fault them.
Well, melatonin is not a sedative, as we might say.
Yeah, I mean, but what you were talking about is exactly what happened. Like the melatonin, it put my body to sleep, but my brain was still just
Yes.
So it did not help in the way that we were hoping.
Yeah, and in a different culture, maybe you as a child would have been informed of ways to help the mind.
Maybe, yeah.
And but our culture doesn't give that to children.
Yeah.
We don't really teach them that.
No. No, we don't, because we figured, maybe just run a couple more laps. You'll be so exhausted, fall down and go to sleep.
Yes, and we want to fill their minds with facts. And then test them to make sure that they've retained these facts. And we want to encourage them to stir up their thinking and do even more thinking. And I'm not opposed to thinking in facts. By gosh, I think you can tell I've done a bit of it myself.
Yeah.
But as a sleep coach, I have a lot of interest, and I have for decades now, in the state of non-stress, the state of welcoming the moment, being present to things, even when they're not the happy things. But our attitude of, well, we call it mindfulness, but that word can distract people. Just our capacity for this moment to be here and to be accepting of ourselves, to be kind to ourselves. So a lot of what I'm doing for folks is encouraging them to recognize that their own nature knows how to sleep, and that we can foster that nature. We do not need to fix it. So even if we're dealing with problems of insomnia, it's not that we're trying to fix the insomnia, but rather we're trying to support our natural capacity to sleep.
Right. No, that's true. Yeah. And it's funny because I don't know why, but a couple times during the show that we've been talking, I've actually felt kind of getting kind of emotional about it because sleep has always been something that I've either fought against or that I've not known, that I've just kind of felt like, well, I'm just a night owl. I stay up late, and so I've kind of accepted that fate, and
Yes.
I worked jobs in high school that did not help me contradict that. I was working at a video store that was open till midnight, and then I would, get home at 1:00 in the morning and get up for class at 7 a.m. the next morning. And that was my 2 years of high school. I would get 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep. I'm lucky. And then, but I just thought that was it, and now I'm, after talking to you and certain other people that, it's like, well, this is, I don't know. It's kind of making me think,
Well, you get to have a night owl chronotype. Some people do. They just naturally fall asleep later. But what's crucial is that then they should be allowed to sleep in so that they're still getting sufficient sleep.
Yeah.
But their pattern is a little different than the people who, like to wake up in the morning. And some scientists are even speculating that that's how the species is. As a tribe, you wanted some people to wake up early and you wanted other people to be awake late because they're watching for the predators. And they're there to support us.
So I've, you hear people, there's everybody got to have something to say about sleep, and some people say, well, if you're not sleeping, if you're not, the pre-midnight hours are the important part, or so if somebody like has an overnight shift, I did overnights for a little bit. So I was working 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then I would sleep during the day and then I would do it again.
Yeah.
And people have done that for years, and it
and
does it matter when you get
the
sleep?
It's not good for the health. In fact, the World Health Organization recognizes it as a potential carcinogen. Shift work. Yeah.
Well, but does it really matter when you get the sleep though? You're saying if I go to sleep, if I fall asleep
regularity
6 p.m. versus 1 a.m., does it make that big of a
difference? If you did that every day, then that would be your regular pattern.
Okay.
And sure, it'd be at contrast with what the sun was doing, but you use blinds and so on. You want to sleep in a dark room, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. You want to be sleeping in a dark room. The darker, the better. Don't leave that TV on. That's going to interfere with your blood sugar, for goodness sakes. If you leave the TV on, But if you were doing that every day, Jeff, then that would be much less destructive than, you work the night shift and then you're on the morning shift and back and forth. That's really asking for trouble. It's encouraging atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries in the heart.
Oof.
Yeah, just new study just came out from in the Journal of the Heart Association.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, that irregular schedules are associated with hardening of the arteries of the heart. Man, isn't that serious?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to put that in my new blog.
You
sign up for Happy Sleep Secrets. I'll send you out that blog eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
I want to
so
ask
important.
It's super important, and I want to get to this question because it's important too, and with all the stuff that with all the sleep trouble with your mom and your grandma and yourself and all the different and all the things you've learned and all the work you've done and all the things you deal with, how do you personally find hope every day?
Oh, isn't that a coincidence that you would ask that? Because that's a particular interest of mine, even a professional interest. My Happy Sleep Secrets leads to an automation that sends out emails for maybe 5 or 6 weeks. People get emails about the value of optimism, what the science shows, that optimistic people live longer than the more pessimistic folks.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
again and again the studies show that. And it's not that you have to have a happier life, it's your attitude. Like right now, we're all sitting here, and if you're looking forward to the rest of your day, if you just kind of realize, that a good thing could happen. Maybe there's other troublesome things coming up today, for sure. Life can be like that. But you also think, something good could happen,
Yeah.
And there's a little optimism, and that is a biological state which supports our health. To be open to, as you say, hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I say it all the time, your attitude is the only thing in your whole life that you have 100% control over. So, make
Jeff,
it optimistic, just think the best,
You're serving your community, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what of all these challenges that you've experienced over your life with sleep and with your family, what of that are you thankful for?
Well, I've had such a rich life being able to study all this. I came from, challenged circumstances, working class upbringing, and this kind of thing. I never thought I'd be able to do all the study I did, but I was so fortunate. I even got to go to Zurich and study at the Jung Institute and so on. That's really great. I still rejoice when I think about that.
Yeah.
I'm later in life now. I probably won't be doing a lot of that, although I'm online reading this and that. But just I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Oh man, I love Zurich.
It's been there.
It's been so long. I was there in 1996 for a little while. But oh my gosh, I love that. I love that city. I love that country. It's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic over there. And I've got so many friends over there. They keep saying, "Well, come over. You got a place to stay," but it's not a cheap plane ticket. So we haven't made it over there yet, but
it's not, but maybe synchronicity is such that I've just appeared on your show and I've said, "Go, Jeff, go."
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to Zurich. All right. Get ready. Get the passports. Wow. So if there are people out there right now today watching this show, or they message in or they email in and say, "I'm concerned about my sleep. You've piqued my interest." What would you tell them?
Well, Happy Sleep Secrets. Download that. It's at lucindagift.com. You have to use the www.lucindagift.com, and that'll put you in my email list. And that you'll get lots of emails about sleep and so on. And you'll also be given the link to my blog. And I have many research-based articles on sleep. And as well, I feel that you have a very special TV viewing audience here. I've been viewing episodes, and if anybody viewing would like to come for a one-on-one with me to discuss self-care for their sleep, I'd be very happy to, be with them as they do that. Yeah. This is not me pitching coaching services. Please. No, this is my mission in life. Yeah. And I call it a Best Sleep Now session. So if you'd like that, you could go to www.meetwithlucinda.com. And I'm open-hearted in that. Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool that's your mission. When it's your mission, you're always wanting to get the people in.
Well, it's great. I'm at this stage in my life, you see, where I can really follow that sense of mission. Exactly. So even though I'm thinking about my grandmother from those decades ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Well, I am so thankful that you were here and that you were able to spend this time with me. Thank you so much for being here. We are out of time, unfortunately. Okay. But I want to come. I would love to have you back, actually, because I feel like we've got so much more that we could cover on this. I didn't even get to half the things I wanted to ask you.
No, well, you and I were before the show. We were talking about meditation apps and how
I know.
And I'd love to discuss that for sure.
We need to come back and do that again, but we will do that on another show because we are completely out of time.
That's what I call the elephant in the room. It's the busy mind. So often we can't sleep because that mind just will not be quiet.
I know. We gotta tackle that. So we're gonna do that on another show. I promise.
And I'd love to talk about the apps.
Yes.
For sure. be
Yes.
very practical for the viewers.
For sure. 100%. And so we'll do that. We'll do that on the next one. But thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, good to be with you and your audience too.
Thank you. We'll see you again soon. All right, guys. That is amazing. I'm not kidding. We're going to bring her back because we got so much more to talk about. But join me on Tuesday, August 8th. Eva Baca-Currents is going to be coming on as my show, and we're going to be talking about stuff, a life that is thriving despite post-concussive syndrome. So it's going to be amazing. Eva's incredible. You're never going to want to miss this. And until then, have an amazing day. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.